Hi, welcome to the ABCs for Improving Mental Health with Lifestyle Choices. Today we're going to be talking about emotional freedom technique, which is also known as tapping. This is one of my absolute favorite tools to use with clients, and I've been using it for about a decade now. It is wonderful for dealing with things that have happened to people in the past, what is happening to people in the present, and I can even help people with things that are going to be happening in the future, like a fear of flying or a fear of eating a certain food. It is an incredibly easy tool to learn, very versatile, and extremely effective. So without further ado, let's just talk about tapping. I want to talk a little bit first about stress and dealing with stress. I love this saying: when we learn how to become resilient, we learn how to embrace the beautifully broad spectrum of the human experience. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about stress management, is learning how to be resilient, learning how to roll with the waves. So if you think about going out on a board, let's say you go out on a boogie board or a surfboard, and you paddle out in the water, and hopefully the water is calm and looks beautiful and peaceful like this picture does. And you're floating along and everything feels great. But then all of a sudden, you start feeling the board just start to move a little bit and change direction just a little bit. And maybe there's a storm that's brewing out into the ocean that you just can't see yet, that you aren't even aware exists. And as you are laying there enjoying the calm, the waves start to pick up, and they start getting a little bit bigger, and the waves start getting a little bit rougher. And you have to know at that point what to do. Do you turn around and go back in? Do you figure out a way to turn the board sideways and sort of float with the waves? Can you head right into the waves and crest the waves as they come towards you? Or do you lose control and have this huge wave break over you and dump you into the water? And once you're dumped into the water, can you figure out which way is up? Do you know how to find your way to the top? Or do you just get tossed around and tumbled around and feel lost and scared and terrified of whether you're going to actually survive or not? And I think that a lot of times this is how we feel. Do we know how to weather the waves? Do we know whether we can float through them? Can we turn into them? Do we need to turn back? How do we manage ourselves in a time when things are uncertain? So there are different kinds of traumas, and there are big traumas and there are little traumas. The big traumas are things like parents getting a divorce, a death in the family, a car accident, something that is really huge and that really impacts us in a big way. And then there are the little traumas, and those are the things that happen from day to day that we often just sort of shrug off, like somebody hurts our feelings, or a parent has said something to a child. For example, imagine when you were a kid getting dressed to go out for the night, and you spent maybe an hour primping in front of the mirror, and then as you go to leave, one of your parents says to you, "You're not wearing that, are you?" And suddenly your self-esteem is crushed. You thought you looked cute, you thought you looked stylish, and suddenly a parent is questioning how you look. Fast forward 10, 15 years later, and you're getting dressed, and your partner says to you, "You're not wearing that, are you?" And all these old feelings come up. And maybe you react in a way that is really not even worthy of what the situation is all about. Maybe you overreact and you wonder, what the heck was that all about? What they said was not that big of a deal, but I really reacted to that. And that's because we store information in our brains, but also in our bodies. And so as we have these little insults and these little tiny traumas coming at us from day to day, we store them and we remember them, and our bodies often react from a place of long ago that is now that we're living out today. So a 35-year-old might be reacting more like a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old. Those are the different parts that make us up. And they're all great, but sometimes they get in the way of us handling things in a more healthy way. So when we experience a trauma, whether it's a big trauma or a little trauma, we often end up in the fight or flight response. And from this picture, you can see that I have a cat that is showing the fight response, backed into a corner, hissing, claws and teeth ready to go. Or the eagle that is flying, that sometimes we need to turn around and flee. We need to run like crazy and get out of a situation. Or like the doe, frozen on the spot. We are paralyzed with fear. And this fight or flight response is something we all have. It's wired into our DNA. It's not anything that we can really change. But what we need to know is it's a survival mechanism, which is great when we're truly in danger. But when it's something like somebody saying something that hurt our feelings, or stress over taking a test, or making a presentation, or having a job interview, then we're going to react in a way that is more than what warrants for the situation, and often can cause problems like having our brains shut down so that we don't have access to the judgment and the thoughts that we maybe would like to have. So the body does keep the score, and I didn't make that up. That's the title of a book by a famous author, and I really recommend this book. Dr. Van der Volk, he talks a lot about how we store trauma and how the body does keep score, and how we manage our stress and our trauma over time. So I want to talk about tapping, because tapping is a wonderful way of managing the waves, managing stress, helping us to self-regulate and keep ourselves in a calm place. So I'm going to do a very brief overview today. I do teach this in a more extensive way, and I certainly encourage you to contact me if you would like some additional help or some of the handouts that are in this presentation. So this is a picture of the basic recipe. There are other there are other tapping points that can also be used in tapping, but this is called the basic recipe, and this is what I teach people in the first session when we are first beginning to do tapping. So you'll see that this first point right here is called the karate chop. It's on the hand where you would literally do a karate chop, or you're going to be chopping wood with your hand. So it's the fleshy part of your hand below the pinky, between the pinky and the wrist. And we tap gently on this point. All of tapping is done with our fingertips, and these are all acupuncture points. So this is the karate chop. The second point is on the eyebrow. It is not, I'm going to move my hair so you can see, it's not up here on the forehead, although there are some points there that are useful. It is the point on the eyebrow closest to the bridge of your nose. And then the next point is on the side of the eye, under your nose, under your bottom lip, on your chest, either on the collarbones, as this picture shows, or between the collarbones, imagining if you were wearing a man's tie and it's where the knot would be sitting. Underneath your arm, about 4 inches below your armpit, and then on the top of your head. And there are many points on the crown of your head, so you don't have to find a specific place. I want to also mention all of these points it's a very forgiving system. And so if you don't get the point on exactly the right place, don't worry about it. Don't let your perfectionism get in the way of trying to do this right. You can't really mess it up. So what we do is we start with these points, and we have a script. And I have put up here an anxiety script, but you can put any emotion into this script. So even though I feel anxiety, or even though I feel depression, or even though I feel anxious about the upcoming birthday party, whatever it might be, you can plug in. This is just a framework. What I usually do with people is I write down all the thoughts they're having about a specific event, and then we create a script based on what they have said. But for you, I'm providing a script because what most people tell me is, I really wanted to tap, but I didn't know what to say. So I like giving people a guideline so that they can print this out and they can follow it easily. So you can see with the karate chop, the statement goes for 3 different times. And you can see with my cursor, karate chop, karate chop, karate chop. So 3 times you're going to say even though and state the problem. Now, the main thing that is important with tapping is that you are honest with yourself. So you want to say what is very true to you. So don't hold back. No one's judging. You can do this on your own, so nobody has to listen. You need to tell your deepest, darkest fears and the truth, because the body keeps the score and the body knows what is true. So be sure that you are honest with yourself and you say what is true. So you can see, even though I feel anxiety, I deeply and completely accept that I have these feelings. And you will repeat that 3 times. Then you move around to the other points. So you would say, I feel anxiety. I feel anxiety. I really feel anxiety. Sometimes I feel anxiety and it's overwhelming. Sometimes I feel anxiety and it makes me feel out of control. But I can't help but feel the anxiety. I wish I could not feel the anxiety, but I do feel the anxiety. I acknowledge that I'm feeling anxiety, even if I don't like it. I still have anxiety, and so on. So I will usually do this with somebody 2, 3, 5 to 7 times. Usually what I'm looking for is, as they're going through the script, they start to feel bored. When they do that, when they either yawn or they start to feel bored, then I know that the energy has begun to shift a little bit and they are starting to feel a little bit better. So I will then start a more positive round, and you can see in this towards the bottom of the page, I've written words to build into a positive round. It is safe to feel calm. I am worthy of feeling calm. I deserve to feel calm. Those are some of the key words that I really like to build in. Now, if you say one of these sentences and it doesn't quite feel right, you can change it up. So for example, you can say, it is safe to feel calm. And at that point, you might feel like, you know what, it's not safe. So then I would change the next point to say, I'm not sure it feels safe to feel calm, but I would like to feel calm. I think it's going to be okay to feel calm. I'm ready to feel calm. So again, acknowledging what is true for you in that moment is important when you're doing tapping. And then after you finish doing another round or 2 in the positive side, then you will stop, take a deep cleansing breath, check in, see where you're at. Are you still feeling really anxious, moderately anxious? Has it come down? Are you feeling a little bit better? And if you're still feeling relatively anxious, I would start another round. So you would do yet another, even though. But when you do the second and third and fourth round of this, be sure that you add in the word still. Even though I am still feeling anxious, I deeply love and accept myself, or completely accept how I feel about this, even though I'm still feeling it, fill in the blank. So we just add that word to just acknowledge that we are still working on the same problem. And again, 3 to 5 times around, take a breath, check in. And sometimes people will ask me, well, how many times should I tap on these points? There's no real number. So what I usually do is just tap gently. You don't have to hit yourself really hard. Just tap gently and just take the amount of time it takes to say the statement, and then move on to the next one. So for every sentence, you're going to be continuing to move to the next point. Another way that you can do this that's also super easy is you can do basically a brain dump. So, you know, when you have that dialogue going on in your head and you want to just talk to yourself about something, you can tap on that. So I'm really feeling anxious about this pandemic. I don't know when this is going to be over. I'd like to get back to my office. I'd like to be able to see my patients. I miss hugging people. This has just been really hard, and so on. So you just talk through what you're feeling while you are tapping on those points. So that's a very brief lesson on how to tap. There are lots and lots of variations, and I would love to help you with it. So feel free to give me a call at 404-275-6200, or you can email me at Vicki@YourHealthyStructure, and I would be happy to help you with sharing some of my handouts with you, helping you work through some scripts, helping you with whatever is currently going on with you or with one of your kids. This works great with kids. They love it. So there are lots and lots of different ways of using this. So I do hope that you give me a call and give me a chance to help you work through and feel better with whatever is going on with you today.